Interesting.
My boots are on the ground. I walk the fields. I see my plants. I see the needs not only of the coffee, but the people. And I administer my farm. No one does it for me. I do it. Agronomically, I make the decisions. What gets applied to the coffee, when and where. Operations is run by my foreman, but management is done by me.
Awesome. And how do you treat the soil here on your farm?
Well, I've been running soil tests, both using satellite technology as well as national labs and international labs. I prefer Dantali. They specialize in coffee. They do a really very nice job. So do the local ones, but they're not specifically for coffee. So oftentimes we sample the soil, and we have a historical record of our farm since I began owning the farm, and see how the soil changes, the pH changes, the deficiencies in each one of the planting areas, and we do decisions based on our analysis, both foliar as well as soil.
And how do you decide to treat your plants, and how do you prevent pests and diseases from attacking them?
I think one of the philosophical changes that has made the biggest impact on my farm is that I play defensive, I don't play offensive. Meaning that I know that I will have roya, and I will treat my plant when it's at its health, for the plant to remain as healthy as possible. I don't wait for the plant to get sick to attack. I attack beforehand.
And do you do any tissue management here on La Plata?
Of course. My father was ahead of its time when my father farmed coffee. The philosophy of the farm is that I don't wait for a plant to be old for me to prune it. I built a 25-year calendar to manage my farm. And the reason that that has been done is that I don't have to second guess decisions after harvest. I know that 10% of my farm gets managed year in and year out. I built my production calendars based on that, so that I don't have to worry about, no, I can't do that because I need to have production for next year. If I don't prune, the plant will charge me twofold, and it will be twice as hard the following year. So the decisions are very much thought out. Of course, if there is an unusual circumstance and there's new diseases coming out in coffee every year, and you have to take those into account, those are extraordinary circumstances. But the decisions have been made. They were made the year that the tree was planted.
And how often are you pruning and cutting down for regrowth?
So, as I said, there's a schedule. Every year we prune, but we don't prune in the same spot. We have a schedule of how to move the farm so that the farm remains young and healthy. And should disease, and it did happen to me a few years back, that I had an unusual circumstance in which a whole field came under duress, the whole plant gets pulled out, the soil is left to rest, the soil is treated, and a new plant has been put in place. Those are extraordinary circumstances. On regular farm management, if you don't schedule it out the year you plant, you're already playing a losing game.
Interesting. And how many pickers do you have here during the season and off season?
A good question. Last week, with the peak of harvest, we had 240.
Wow.
We can go up to as high as 300, depending on how harvest comes. As it always happens when you're past peak, then we're back up to 140 pickers. That does not include the folks who are the daily management of the farm, or the administrative staff, or the support staff. That's just the folks that are seasonal folks that come to help us year in, year out. I'm unique that way.
That's really cool. I had a question about your pickers as well. How do you inform them and educate them about bricks? How do you kind of get your message across and tell them that this is the degrees of bricks that I want picked for this coffee?
I make those decisions. So coffee is, I have two teams. I have the ones that harvest in the cycle, because coffee will not wait for you. You need to go and harvest it when it's ready. I have a specialty team with a leader that understands specialty coffee. On a traditional year, when weather conditions permit, we do selective harvesting. That means only the red is picked. I can tell you a story of how it started and how hard it is. I made the decision not to produce volume when I arrived, and the harvest that I had, 2016-2017 harvest, I decided I was moving from traditional picking, what they call pinto rosado here, and everything gets picked that has a look of red, to selective harvesting, which is only the ripe. And I came and informed the team and informed the capatazes, who are the field hands, the field bosses who direct the folks. And I was quickly informed that I had 120 pickers on the road. So I got on the truck, I went to the field, and surely enough, they were not interested in picking. I had informed them that I pay at a higher rate, and they said, no, we want to pick Pinto Rosado. And I said, fine, come to the main house and I will pay you off. And that's a bold decision in the middle of harvest at its peak. So I started back with 60, and that were willing to pick selective. And amazingly enough, everyone else who came after that adopted what we do here in the farm. But that was one very hard day, and it takes significant amount of gumption to be able to pull that move. Since then, everybody understands everywhere that Cynthia does selective harvesting. Once you train your staff, once the staff understands the expectation, and once you're a farmer such as we are, that we provide very good housing, very good food, very good treatment, and the conditions are there for them to want to come back every year because they earn well, then that same picker comes back every year, and I don't have to retrain. So it allows a farm like mine to be a specialty farm. That's a condition that's very fortunate for me. But from those 60 who stood by me that day, now I can select 300 who are quite happy to come and harvest the way we do.
That's great. And do you mind touching on how much they get paid and their food and their meals and how that works?
Sure, would love to. So payment is the first question you asked. And in Nicaragua, the government sets the wage. It sets the wage for the measure, the medida de la lata. They also set the standard of what and how much they eat. And a farmer opts to meet the minimum or pay above the minimum. For my selective pickers, I picked 10 pesos, which is 25% more of what the government requires. You do not pay less. Everybody knows the standard. The ration of food is half a pound of bean per person per day. And so it's set for the staples, the rice, how much sugar, how much coffee. The government tells you how much a farmer needs to. And in this farm, we do not say you only get one tortilla. You get whatever tortillas you need so that you're able to do the job. So we meet more than the ration. I have a saying, which is, I don't have a special cook for me or a special cook or kitchen area for me. If I can't eat my workers' food, something is really wrong. If the hygiene in my kitchen is not good enough for me, it can't be good enough for anyone else. So I eat their food, I eat the same tortillas, I don't ask something special to be done for me. Why? Because the quality of the beans that I buy is first rate, and I'm happy to eat it. If I eat it, they know that I will eat exactly what they eat, because I have no problem taking a tortilla, fold it in half, and putting my beans inside, and off I go. That is a particular condition of mine. And so I'm quite comfortable that the food is what needs to be there to fuel my farm.
And when it comes to fermentation time, do you have a specific fermentation process or a time period that you use for processes and a specific pH you try to hit?
So weather has been a theme of our conversation. I think weather affects fermentation greatly. I wish I could tell you that there's a magic recipe, but in fact there isn't. The maturation of the cherry, how it was harvested, the weather conditions at night, how cold it is, how humid it is, it all impacts fermentation. For the larger lots that we pick, we will not wash a lot until it's ready. And Julio, who is my foreman, he grew up in coffee, just like I grew up in coffee. Although his training was from his father, and I was not allowed on the fields until I took up my farm. A lot will be deemed fermented when it can be washed successfully, and all the mucilage gone appropriately. We do check on Grados Brix, but we find that the number of hours will depend on weather, temperature, and humidity. So no magic recipe. We do washed predominantly, we do it well. We do honeys. If the Grados Brix in the field are well enough and the selective harvesting was done correctly. I will do naturals if the Grados Brix are also well. And so the one that makes the shots is basically at the medida. At 3 o'clock we get to see what really is there, and can we consistently hit the quality that we want.
Awesome. And can you touch on a little bit about the design process of the drying mill that you have?
Oh, sure. So that was an experiment. I hate to say it, a failed experiment and a successful experiment, because it told us the reality. The humidity at the farm is too high for us to dry here at La Plata. My thought was, if I dried, I can keep the traceability of my lots, and I was ready to build a significant project of rice beds. We tried it again, and we found that drying here at the farm, it's not a possibility given weather conditions. So we have gone back to the dry corridors of the country and taken our coffee to dry there. Our experiments showed that we can lose between a point and 2 points of quality by keeping it in high humidity conditions. And we tried too hard to produce good coffee. It's better for the drier conditions. We do not have the electricity to do mechanical drying. And even then, I think raised beds are the way to go. So we use a mill that has a specialty team that can give us the attention to our coffee and the traceability that we want.
Great. Well, let's pick up where the dry beds are then.
Absolutely.